Welcome to the Explainer. So today, we're going to investigate a hidden link deep inside our bodies, a communication network that, honestly, scientists are only just starting to wrap their heads around. It connects two players you'd probably never think of together, your thyroid and your gut. So, what if the key to a healthy thyroid is actually hiding in your gut? I know, it sounds pretty out there, right? I mean, the thyroid's up here in your neck, running your metabolism. The gut is, way down there, handling digestion. How on earth could they possibly be connected? Well, that's exactly the mystery we're going to unravel today. Okay, so to get to the bottom of this, we've got to get to know the main player here. This isn't just some random, flimsy connection. Scientists actually have a name for it, the gut-thyroid axis. And believe me, it's a real, honest-to-goodness biological system. Yeah, the gut-thyroid axis. Think of it like a two-way superhighway. All those trillions of tiny microbes living in your digestive tract, they're not just sitting there digesting your lunch. Nope. They are constantly firing off signals that can either speed up or slow down your thyroid. And it goes the other way too. Your thyroid hormones directly influence the health and balance of that entire gut ecosystem. It's a constant conversation. When you break it all down, it's actually a pretty straightforward flow. See, it all starts with your gut microbiota, that community of bacteria. They're basically the gatekeepers. They control which nutrients get absorbed, and they help regulate your immune system. And that control, it directly impacts how well your thyroid can do its job. And here's what's really wild. This connection, it's not something that just develops over time. It's fundamental. It goes all the way back to when we were just tiny embryos. The tissue that eventually becomes our gut and the tissue that becomes our thyroid, they actually grow from the exact same starting material. So yeah, they've been linked from day one. So let's build on that idea. One of the gut's most critical jobs is basically acting as the thyroid's supply chain manager. Seriously, without a healthy gut, the whole thyroid factory would just grind to a halt. And this really shows you what I mean. Your thyroid is desperate for these four key micronutrients. Iodine, that's the main building block for thyroid hormones. Iron powers the enzyme that actually makes those hormones. Zinc, it helps convert the storage hormone, T4, into the active T3 form your body can actually use. And selenium acts like a bodyguard, protecting the gland itself. And what's the one thing they all have in common? Your gut is responsible for pulling every single one of them out of the food you eat. Okay, so what happens when that communication line, that supply chain, breaks down? Well, the evidence is getting clearer and clearer, especially when you start looking at some really common thyroid conditions. Let's take autoimmune thyroid diseases. This is where the body's own immune system gets confused and starts attacking the thyroid. And what's so fascinating is that researchers are seeing totally distinct changes in the gut bacteria of people with these conditions. In Hashimoto's, for example, which causes an underactive thyroid, they often see a big drop in certain bacteria that are supposed to keep the immune system in check. And then there's Graves' disease, which causes an overactive thyroid. There, scientists have this really interesting theory called molecular mimicry. The idea is that some gut bacteria look so much like thyroid tissue that they trick the immune system into attacking both. It's like a case of mistaken identity. And the evidence trail doesn't stop there. Newer research is even pointing to a possible link with thyroid cancer. What studies are finding is that patients often have fewer of those really beneficial bacteria. The ones that produce something called short-chain fatty acids. These are incredible compounds that are made when we digest fiber, and they're super important for tamping down inflammation all over the body. All right, so we've established the problem. The investigation, naturally, now turns to solutions. If a messed up gut can cause thyroid problems, then can fixing the gut help fix the thyroid? The first thing that pops into a lot of people's minds is, of course, probiotics. Just swallow some capsules of good bacteria to repopulate the gut. It's a really compelling idea for sure. But what does the science actually say? And yeah, this is where things get a little complicated. In animal studies, the results have been amazing, really promising. But when we try to replicate that in human clinical trials, the evidence gets a lot murkier. It's just been really mixed and inconsistent. And this right here really gets to the core of the challenge. We can see these incredible results in the lab, like one specific probiotic dramatically boosting thyroid hormones in mice, but getting that same success in actual people is way harder. Some human studies show, some small improvements, but a lot of them show no real effect at all. The bottom line is we just don't have enough solid data yet to say, take this specific probiotic for your thyroid. So, a more reliable strategy, at least for now, might be to support that gut-thyroid connection through your whole diet. We're talking about including things like fermented foods that have natural probiotics, making sure you're getting enough iodine and selenium from things like seafood and nuts, and eating plenty of prebiotic-rich foods, like whole grains, to feed the good bacteria you already have. Oh, and throwing in some functional foods like turmeric can't hurt either. And speaking of diet, what about those foods you sometimes hear are bad for your thyroid? Goitrogens, like broccoli or cabbage. Well, the science is pretty clear on this. For most people, as long as you're getting enough iodine in your diet, these vegetables are totally fine. They're healthy and they're not going to pose a risk. Okay, so we've looked at all the evidence, the deep connection, what happens when it breaks down, and the potential solutions. So what's the final verdict on this whole gut-thyroid mystery? This quote from a recent scientific paper just says it perfectly. Calling the gut microbiota an influential player in thyroid health, that's not just a small update, it's a paradigm shift. It completely changes the way we have to think about thyroid disorders from now on. Look, if there's just one thing you take away from all this, let it be this. Your thyroid does not work in a vacuum. A healthy gut is its essential partner. This idea of a holistic view of the body, it isn't just some nice, fluffy concept. It's a biological reality. And when you learn about something like this, it really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other incredibly important connections are hiding right inside us, just waiting to be discovered? Maybe the future of health isn't about targeting one single organ, but about finally understanding the entire hidden conversation that's happening within our bodies all the time.